This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is somebody that I've looked up to for quite some time and somebody that really doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. Mr. Brent Cook, who's, of course, a renowned analyst, a renowned economic geologist. I could stutter over all the titles. He's got over 4 decades of experience. Not to date you there, Brent, but look, excited to have you on the show. How the heck are you, sir?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. The gold market and silver seem to be picking up. Copper looks good. In terms of metals, we're looking good.
In terms of metals, let's start there. I've had the pleasure of interviewing quite a few people here over the past couple of weeks. And look, we're in an environment that we've never seen before, but that we all kind of, I don't want to say predicted, but we planned for, at least allocated for. Seeing it as a different thing. Where do you feel we are in the cycle as it relates to the metals? And then I want to talk the junior resource sector, obviously.
With the caveat that I don't know.
It's a great place to
um,
start.
I feel like we're probably halfway to two-thirds of the way into this bull market. There's so much going on geopolitically
Yeah.
that it's a tough call to know what's going to happen to the global economy and such. But certainly, there's a deficit of copper building.
Absolutely.
Gold is being acquired by central banks around the world. The dollar's being tossed out the window, and we're mining more copper, gold, nickel, etc., than we're finding. So there is a deficit looming out there, and I think that bodes well for quality projects that larger mining companies will be acquiring and quality exploration companies that are looking for legitimate projects.
Do you think that those companies that make discoveries of significance are gonna capture premiums that we haven't seen because of the margins? With $3,500 gold, with $36 silver that's likely headed higher, and with copper that looks like it wants to head to record highs with those structural deficits, right?
Yeah, I think so. Most definitely. I mean, this kind of in a way, it's the market is similar to what happened in around 2000 when the China thing happened and that
Yeah,
took everything up and everyone got aggressive. This time it's not the China thing; it's more the electric build out
yeah.
and problems with the U.S. dollar and that sort of thing. Um, that's what's going to push it.
I mentioned during the introduction that, I've looked up to you for a long time. A part of why I've looked up to you for a long time, because you don't impress easy with the companies. And, I've seen you speak at conferences, I don't know how many times, 15 times now at least. And you always highlight more things that you don't like about companies than things that you do like about companies. And so when I know your background with precious metal epithermal systems, and I saw you in New Orleans, I want to say maybe a year or so ago. It might have been 2 years. And you had joined the technical advisory team for a young company called Headwater Gold that specifically is mandated internally to look in the Western United States in top-notch jurisdictions for epithermal systems that can be quite high grade and quite rich in nature. You don't take a lot of those technical advisory roles on. So what attracted you to Headwater Gold to make you say, "Yeah, I'll put my name on that, and I wanna work with that team," because I think there's something there. It's just not something you do very often.
No, I don't do that very often. I went on a visit with them, looked at a number of their projects throughout Nevada, and got a good feel for Caleb, the president,
Yeah.
and his geologic team. And they were doing exploration right. They're not looking for old retreads and trying to pump up the stock based on that sort of thing. Um, they're doing real grassroots exploration, looking for targets that are blind from surface, basically based on the what little outcropping geology alteration, geochemistry they can pick up. But they also understand the business side of it.
Yeah.
We know that most of the prospects out there, anyone turns up, are going to come up dead.
Yep.
So rather than diluting themselves, the share structure continually, basically proving there isn't a deposit somewhere, they recognized that, it was better economics to bring in a partner to do the hard work. And so I like that model for the most part. And the other thing about that model that's really worked for me is these guys, this style of a company, a prospect generator model. The smart ones, they keep turning through projects and projects, and they bring in companies and partners. But eventually, at some point in the future, they come across something that
Yeah.
keeps getting better and better, and they keep it.
Yeah.
And when they keep it, you've got a low share count, tight share structure, and you can really do well with a legitimate discovery. Otherwise, you've got other people spending money on your project, and if it comes good, you still profit from that or benefit from that from the share structure. So I guess that's what got me into it. And I should say, after I went and visited the project, I bought some shares and I came on as a technical advisor.
Well, look, their model, I love their model. I've been critical of the project generator model because it gives away the bulk of the upside on the exploration front. What Headwater's done, and I think brilliantly, has been able to, on the project generator side, get over 100 million Canadian in potential exploration commitments from the likes of Newmont, and then simultaneously retain some of the juicier projects with 100% ownership that they can test for themselves. And I think the combination of that in this environment with $3,500 gold and likely headed higher is pretty unique, especially with the geopolitical turbulence that we have right now. You touched on that earlier, and I think being in the Western United States, the U.S. has a lot of other issues going on, but exploration in the Western U.S. I think is prudent. And I'm going back to those premiums I talked about earlier. I think if they make discoveries of significance, shareholders are going to be pretty richly rewarded. Not a coincidence that management and insiders own some 30% of shares outstanding, right? You talked about skin in the game.
Right. Well, I mean, the game plan is still to bring in partners, unless they see something that is, so good they continue drilling it themselves. I mean, look at drilling costs in the Western U.S. Core drilling are running between $500 and $600 a meter all
Yeah.
in.
Ish.
So consider your target's probably 250 meters below the surface.
Right.
You can pre-collar it with
Yeah.
RC, and that's running about 200. But still, to drill 10 holes, going, testing a target, that's going to cost you around $70,000. Um, that's going to go pretty quick,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And most of the time you're going to miss.
And most of the time, you're going to fail, or you'll come up with encouraging results,
Yeah.
which is the last thing you want because your shares, you got to raise money on a
Right.
dead share price. So my sense is, and I don't know for certain, but I know they're talking to a lot of other companies trying to, bring in partners. And I think given the gold price, prospectivity of the Western US, that they'll succeed.
I have to ask you before you leave, Brent. But obviously, with Headwater, on my end, I'm biased. The company's a client of Resource Stock Digest. They're a client for a reason. I think our audience has a really good chance of making some money with the team. On your end of it, you're a technical advisor, but what else do you like out there that maybe is off the beaten path or isn't? The flavor of the month, as our industry tends to have flavors of the month almost every month, right? Hear the same names getting tossed around sometime. Is there something that you really like that you don't think a lot of people are paying attention to that you care to share with us
Well,
today?
I mean, the one thing I have done, and I've, over the past year and a half, I bought into legitimate discoveries, and the share prices and market cap have done well. But I think, there's such a limited number of real deposits that a
Yeah,
major is going to want to buy that there's still upside left in someone like Southern Cross with
absolutely.
their stuff down in um,
Victoria, Australia,
Victoria, Australia. I
Sunday
mean,
Creek, you got it.
that thing just keeps getting better. Another one in Finland is Rupert Resources. That is a
Yes.
really nice, probably the nicest open pit undeveloped deposit I'm aware of, held by a junior.
Ooh,
So those are 2 I like, and I own. Um, yeah, and I'm also kinda keen on rare earths, um,
interesting.
and I own a company called Aclara,
Okay.
which has a, um, clay rare earth deposit down in
Mhm.
Brazil that's being advanced really well, and they're connecting with US production, US processing, so that can come in and not have anything to do with the Chinese rare earths. So that's another one I kinda like.
Interesting, interesting. No, look, always fascinating chatting with you, Brent. I'm really excited to see what Headwater is able to do here as far as continued joint ventures. Obviously, excited about $3,500 gold. With the caveat, of course, that it comes with a lot of turbulence, but that's just par of the course for the gold price and where we are in the state of the world right now. Um, any places you're appearing here soon? I know Mr. Rick Rule, who I had the pleasure to interview a couple of weeks ago, has his symposium, the Natural Resource Symposium, on I want to say July the 7th, if I'm not mistaken, give or take a day or two, but it goes for a couple of days. Will you be there?
That's right, I'll be there.
Hmm,
I'm speaking and I'm on a panel, and my partner, and the owner of Exploration Insights, the newsletter, Joe Mazumdar, will be there, and he's speaking as well. And if your audience hasn't been to explorationinsights.com, they should. Joe is the best junior mining analyst out there. So check it out. I'm also going to the New Orleans show,
excellent.
and I'll be at Beaver Creek Precious Metals Symposium in September.
Wonderful. So I'll see you at least 2 out of 3 of those, Beaver Creek and New Orleans for sure, and quite possibly, the symposium with Mr. Rick there. I have a scheduling conflict that I'm gonna try to work out, but and to your point on Joe, we had him on a couple of weeks ago, and I
Okay.
I I I couldn't agree more about how spectacular he is. He's someone obviously, who took over, your business and started a quarterback it some years ago and has done a brilliant job with it. So I tell everybody, I love the high risk, high reward stuff. If you want the technical side of it and a very thorough, detailed breakdown of why he does what he does, Exploration Insights is a phenomenal service and one of the most honest ones in the business. So, no, good stuff as always, Brent.
Well,
Anything
thank you.
else before I let you go?
All right. Well, have a good week, and we'll see you in Boca, maybe.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Thank you, Brent. Appreciate you.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Cheers now. Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.